this is the highlight of my week, as I keep saying. But we're now well into Q4. Q3 was about just getting membership going. We've now started the work stream, and the work streams working groups are underway. The one that's made most advance, we're going to hear about that, is the sort of tools working group where we're working on personal AI, this concept of a pod that encapsulates your personalization of generic AI. And we've also probably, and I'm grateful for Marcus's contribution, because I think that could be the catalyst, or one of the main ingredients for the policy work group, which is an important leg in this sort of three-legged stool. The third leg is AI fundamentals, and that's the area that I'm deeply concerned about. And I've kicked off an AI, at least on Slack, I've opened up an AI fundamentals channel. I'm looking for volunteers that'll want to come and participate on that. Briefly, AI fundamentals is the research and exploration into AI frameworks and neural network components. It turns out that the neural network components that we're currently using in AI have not changed since the Second World War, the 1940s. The current deep neural network framework has also probably reached the end of its life in terms of allowing us ways forward and getting past some of the deficits that we see in AI. So anyone that's interested in contributing on the AI fundamentals, I've opened up a Slack channel. Come and join it. It's a public Slack channel within Kwaai. Come and join, and we'll set up weekly meetings and start prototyping. Great. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to you, Matt.
Sure. And anybody that doesn't have an invite to the Slack channel, and you've signed up for Kwaai, it may be that you signed up as an observer. You don't get invited if you're an observer. That's for members. So if you haven't gotten an invite, please do let me know. Send me a note at matt@kwaai.ai. I definitely will help you get bumped up. Operationally, just going to lead this, and then Toby wanted you to say a few words about the hack session here coming up. But Eunice, just a quick follow-up here operationally. The CRM project, what's the status or next steps there to get us better operationalized on this?
I think we opened a document for public comments. I saw some comments from you, Deep. So basically, we just have to draw a line in the sand and say this is it, and we can move into actually acquiring the licenses and start configuring.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's give it a deadline, and then move after the deadline expires.
I would say December 1st. That way, we have a month to configure.
Fantastic. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eunice. Toby, wonder if I could put you on the spot here. Talk a little bit about the Hack Day, Luma, driving people to it.
Yep. So I set up an additional page. It's more like a marketing page where we can drive people that are not in the Kwaai community to the Hack Day, capture their email address. It uses the same link that everyone is already invited to on the calendar. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't need to change that. If you could just socialize a link going forward, we can increase the velocity of our Hack Days. And that's the idea, is just to get people sneak peek into the inner dev circle and how much fun group of people we are. And smart, of course.
Fun and smart. That's right.
Yes.
Awesome.
And today we have, right after the call, there's a little hour session. So anyone that wants to join is welcome. And I didn't see anybody join me last night. I won't hold it against y'all because I know it was a late night game. But feel free, if you ever are from another part of the world and you're up I'm usually hacking between 5 p.m. and 1 a.m. with my offshore team. So feel free to hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you, Toby. Thanks for setting that up. And thanks for driving some excitement around the engineering goals. So yeah, as Toby mentioned, there is our hackathon day, weekly hackathon day coming up right after this call. The developers getting together and just working on stuff together. Additionally, there are two other engineering work groups that are in progress. There's the Monday at 10 a.m. pod work group. This is largely a lot of the background is going to be presented by Jim today. And then on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific is just the general Pi engineering work group, which is also kind of talking about the sum total of the project, as well as our progress towards the communications assistant and the first, demonstrable product. Riza, any final thoughts here?
No, I think I'm just heartened by the level of activity where I'm in the loop of it, and I think that's the sort of lifeblood of a volunteer organization, is that it's self actuated and not micromanaged.
Awesome.
Back to you.
Cool. So I'm going to take a little bit of a lightning talk today. I want to share just some of the content that I worked through on Wednesday. I gave a presentation to the Tech User Group Central Oregon. Really did my best to summarize the summit content, 4 hours of summit content. Ended up being about a 45, 50-minute talk. Dave Bickerton, who's on the call today, was there. Thank you, Dave. Sorry about you're going to have to hear some repeat here.
It's okay.
I'm going to give just a bit of a summary here, talk a little bit about some of the ways that, we're beginning to frame these things up, and try to run through this in about 7-8 minutes. Would love feedback on this. What we are really at the point now is, how do we distill down our purpose? How do we distill down our values? And how do we communicate those, to others? So this was my best first attempt here, and I would love some feedback. So this is really set up as AI in the future of work. Talked a little bit about myself, and then the 3 core components of Kwaai. I really do like how this resonated with the audience: the tools, the fundamentals, and the policy. Those 3 legs of the stool, as Riza mentioned. And then kind of bridging those is work groups, and then there'll be likely some sub work groups under each of those areas, obviously quite broad. One thing that's kind of missing here that I thought could be improved is there's really no mission statement. I had the Making AI Personal tagline, but I think one of the things that was kind of missing was just that punch of a mission statement. Terminology, didn't really spend a lot of time on this, certainly won't for this audience. Starting generally speaking, defining what a cloud AI intelligence service is. This was a really interesting graphic that I thought was a useful way to just then distill that terminology slide down. So the rings and the wrappers. So when we talk about ChatGPT, are we talking about AI? Well, yes, but it's very much a small subset. This resonated for, I think, quite a few folks in the audience. Balaji really helped me with this slide. Thank you, Balaji. He let me workshop with him, this one with him on Wednesday. This was just kind of the 3 key components of AI applications: data, knowledge, and then through that knowledge, some type of input-output, whether that's with systems, services, or us in some type of conversational UI.
Matt, on that slide, is Balaji a graphic artist? Is that his speciality?
dall-e and I did most of the content here. So this was me practicing what it meant to be the future of work, and me being a cyborg centaur, which I'll mention what that means in just a moment.
Fantastic.
But
okay.
Yeah, this is all just working with dall-e and ChatGPT and Midjourney to create a lot of these images. And this was really distilling down your slide, Riza. This was really helpful for the audience to understand as well, I thought. Went through some moments in AI history, and I love to start with just Asimov's 3 laws, because I do think it's, he was very prescient, and it's also a great time to read Asimov. Ruth, it's dall-e as in Salvador, dall-e. Not Dolly, I don't think.
Well, I was thinking Dolly the sheep, so.
Some more moments, and the point of this slide was that things are just getting real. Things are accelerating, and even despite us asking for a pause, things have only gone faster. These were annoying slides because I'd finish the slide and then I'd read a news article and have to go back and update the slide. Still some fundamental questions. And so we talked about some of the futures, effective accelerationism, all tech always good, down to techno-dystopianism, the tech will subjugate us and dehumanize us. Talked a little bit about those futures and different, popular stories from, the Garden of Eden. Maybe we're headed back to just stick that fruit back on the tree and, we'll all go play in the garden for the rest of our life. Or, maybe down at the other end of the spectrum, they'll develop a religion around our dehumanization. So talk a little bit then just what some of the products are out there and what they're used for, and what may eventually come, like an artificial general or super intelligence, and then ask that question. And Riza, I've been thinking a lot about what you presented here. Will it take over the world? And you asked this question, has wheat, and took this in a bit of a different direction, because maybe it has taken over the world. It is the largest farm crop on the planet. It is very much used its human partner, its symbiosis, in order to take over. And so I thought it was a very good analogy and thought-provoking exercise there. There is a potential to outsource our creativity. I tried to outsource some of the things that I wasn't going to be able to do myself, not the actual thought content around this presentation. We have a potential breakdown in knowledge. If we freeze Elon Musk and always go to Elon Musk for our advice and the Elon Musk bot, then, we'll all just be getting our information from Elon Musk, and, we're not going to pass it down to the next generation who's going to think about that in a novel way, as we've had for tens of thousands of years. Model collapse, very real risk of now the data trainers training AI with AI trained data and using AI to train the data. This is now manifesting in some of those fundamentals. How do we avoid this in the AI fundamentals? I've been following this one a lot, Louis Rosenberg, the arrival mind paradox. Check this out. And Marcus in particular, Louis talks about like building a hive mind, a super intelligence of human intelligence. And I thought what you demonstrated to us last week was a really good example of that in practice. So yeah, I came to the same conclusion there. It'll probably take over. Things have changed. We need regulation. We went in to talk about regulation. This really tried to summarize a lot of the court cases that are in force, including, Prince. Prince had his day in court. The photographer on the left had sued the Andy Warhol Foundation because Andy Warhol produced the Prince series. That's Orange Prince there on the right. And that Supreme Court decision was ruled that art was not transformed enough for fair use. So maybe that was the reason why the U.S. Copyright Office said, hey, this stuff can't be copyrightable. So a lot of things are happening in AI policy ongoing. This was fascinating for me to just try to pull some of this stuff together. The regulatory capture efforts, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is grabbing comments, that FTC testimony where they're saying, hey, we're mad and this is our problem and we're going to go chase this. Now, over 150 legal processes are actually going on worldwide, so certainly couldn't put a bullet point for all of them, but the two that I thought were interesting, Sarah Silverman and her battle with Meta and OpenAI over the Books 3 library, which contained her work, as well as the Internet Archive is being sued by publishers. The Internet Archive is using the Google Books play. The Authors Guild sued Google Books for scanning and making books searchable here. And that was considered fair use because the books became searchable, and that's a nice public service. The Internet Archive put up an emergency COVID library and said, hey, that's fair use. And the publisher said, well, no, you're just giving the work away. And so far, the courts are actually on the publisher's side here. So this may have a huge implication for some of the fair use arguments around, generative AI training data. And then there's, of course, a bunch of proposed stuff. We went through ethics, talking about ownership, transparency, and alignment. We talked about open source being a key component, building an open source, building with this transparency, and in the mission of Kwaai, frankly, doing this as a volunteer effort is really true to the spirit of how that original Linux came to be, and the ecosystem and the commercial opportunities that were created around that. In alignment, my wife and I have been talking a lot about this. This is our proposal for a modern first law of AI alignment. So we got a little philosophical there. Kai brought some of your lovely slides in here, and I really appreciated this quote that you helped us understand at the summit. And so I was trying to then give a bit of a state of machine learning, machine reasoning, that how the AI network works, provided an example here of possible dogs and dogs. Your slides here around machine reasoning and the relations that we can start to build if we innovate in this biological sense. So you're looking at this as a biological system and using that biological inspiration. Whereas Rees is looking at this as a physical system and using physical systems as inspiration for causal networks. And so we talked a little bit about how biological and physical systems are providing this inspiration. We even dropped the fact that Stephen Wolfram thinks he's been able to come up with the calculation for determinism. Go check out that latest TED Talk. That's a little out there in my opinion. Emergent behaviors, what are those? Why are they arising? Some of these ideas around these self-organizing information systems, swarming behaviors and robots in just traffic patterns, in cells, not just the cells as we grow as humans, and some become lung cells and some become brain cells. But we're also now, new research shows that cells are developing their own little neighborhoods within. So they're self-organizing in some ways. And I'm sure Kai could go on about that. A lot of fundamental research, a lot of considerations. Brought in some data. I thought this was useful and interesting. The Financial Times published this. There was a study with consultants, and what they found was that AI was really the equalizer here. Top performing consultants did not gain as much as the bottom performing consultants. And the topmost performance consultants actually still perform better than the consultants using the AI model. So it really speaks to the kind of the averagization of what ChatGPT did for this consulting group. This was a useful, I think, analogy coming out. Go ahead, Riza.
No, not for me.
This was a useful way that this was the Harvard Business School study that this data came from. And they divided up the participants, those consultants, into two categories, cyborgs and centaurs. Cyborgs were kind of developing a relationship and enmeshing and brainstorming with and collaborating with, much in the same way, Riza, that I think your video with PAI or PI, demonstrates on the website. And then centaurs were really, hey, the workhorse is the AI. I'm still the, the professional in charge up here, and I'm just delegating those tasks. I thought it was a useful model. Riza, this was really about your adoption shifts. And, I thought it was interesting. We went from drafting room to CAD, and now I can get a drafting room in a CAD style from Gen AI. White collar is now at risk, which is why this is really shaking the cage. All of us knowledge workers that, thought that, oh, well, we don't, drive horse buggies. So what's going to be the problem? This is the big shift, and it's really put the squeeze on folks. There's an impact on freelance work from that Harvard Business School study. They actually looked at ChatGPT, and when ChatGPT launched, they were able to now chart that the number of freelance work and the actual compensation for that work is going down. So yes, I could have, maybe should have gone out and hired a freelancer to generate all of this art. Wouldn't have had that this done in time, nor would have I had the money to do that. That being said, this is clearly part of the trend. And this came from McKinsey. I thought this was interesting. STEM professionals and STEM jobs will grow. They will grow in their number, are expected to grow, but they will also be one of the professions that changes the most, alongside creatives, business and legal professionals, and education and workforce training. Health professionals are going to grow. We're all getting older, and we're going to need more people to take care of us, but that's really just taking care of humans. Those jobs are not going to change very much. They may be enabled or augmented by AI, but it's still largely going to be the same job description. And then the ones that are really going to suffer down here, customer service and sales, that's what I was doing, as well as office support. So these are largely going to be some of the jobs that are likely going to be dramatically reduced. And they'd also looked at some of the stats for software engineering, and what they showed was a lot of the basic tasks were being outsourced or had the greatest productivity gains. And what this to me pointed at was some of that knowledge breakdown. We may start to see a shift in employment where those entry-level roles really no longer exist, because those entry-level roles were often, hey, go refactor that code. Hey, go write documentation for this. And that's now going to be a lot more difficult to bring somebody on with those types of tasks that they can get done for the organization. Mike, I was channeling Mike Rubin here, personal AI becoming the tool of the trade like the PC. Looking at Pi as that universal remote, an executive assistant that has your context locally, but then can interact with other services and systems in order to get stuff done for you. And ideally then retaining that knowledge, that data, that context locally and securely, so that you don't have to go out and give it to every AI service in order to get your personalized video recommendations or your dietary constraints included as you're trying to schedule a date with your friends. Here was the architectural slide that we looked at last week. Thank you all for the feedback on that. And then just generally some suggestions for use. And the general suggestion to become a cyborg centaur. Now, I want to challenge all of you. You're all very smart. Go see if you can make dall-e 3 produce, or Midjourney or Stability produce a centaur. I actually had to go to a buddy of mine who has access to dall-e 4 in order to get these centaur images. dall-e 4 apparently has enough parameters to be able to do that. Go try to make dall-e 3 produce a centaur. I could not make it happen. So be nice to the AIs. That's kind of my general thought here. Even if that's all that it takes, we're still superior. This is my talk track from the summit here, and we're creating these digital twins in our image. So maybe it's compute systems all the way down that we're building simulations for, and frankly, maybe it's compute systems all the way up. But go ahead and let's be nice to our creations. Get out there and network. Get out there and be a human. Join Kwaai, join a summit, go to a meetup, and join the movement. So I hope you all enjoyed that. That was really an abbreviation here, but would love your thoughts, feedback. The next step here is we want to get some of this, content, some of these statements into the website, do some updates there. I would love to get folks involved. And yeah, Kai, go ahead.
Amazing summary, condensed, compilation, and I really challenge ChatGPT be able to do that. So Matt, you are living example that we are still superior.
Cyborg centaur.
And as you know, I mentioned quickly the other time, we will have the AI Digital Biology Symposium on December 11th, and Reza will participate. Fantastic. Other people. And I wanted to know if I can use some of your slides, Matt, because some of them are so fantastic.
Please, thank you. I will open source this deck. I'll share it in the Kwaai channel. I didn't want to spoil my presentation by sharing it too early, but absolutely, please take, poach this, go build your own, go add, add to your own. I'd really like to approach our message building and our innovation around this in the same open source spirit.
Okay, and then may I have 30 seconds just to show the AI digital biology so people can subscribe into it. Just to show the screenshot rapidly.
Yeah, give me 1 sec here, Kai. Let me find you. Josh, did you also have a hand raised there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was at the meetup yesterday here in Bend, Oregon, and he did a really great job. He gave a good overview of what he talked about, but he went into a lot more depth in the presentation.
Thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate you and Dave being there. There we go. Yeah, there you go, Kai. There are your co-hosts. Go ahead and stop.
Okay, thanks a lot. Does that work? Does that work? Oh, boom, boom, boom.
While he's looking at that, Toby, I'm a senior software developer and data engineer. So you can reach out to me once I'm on your Slack channel. I'd be interested in doing some development, especially around fuzzy logic.
So you guys see my screen, I guess?
We got you.
Okay, so it's December 11, folks. If you are interested in AI for biology, and the whole thing is about to say the future of biology is digital and AI is the engine for this transformation. So the agenda, you just go there. In the morning, we will have startup company presenting things, then we have a panel for investors, and then in the afternoon we have speakers. For example, people are talking about animal intelligence and human intelligence. How does that represent in pattern recognition and reasoning? And Pankaj will join us, Ben and other people. And I wanted Reza to conclude the things, to open up the thinking about the AI and democratization. So I just put this title, Reza. Let me know if you want another one. So these are the different people, and we will have two more people for this. And finally, we are planning to do another AI Digital Biology Symposium for JP Morgan. JP Morgan is the biggest, gathering for life science in January. So we have already the venue. We collect things, and we should have a link to broadcast that. So anybody interested, just contact me on LinkedIn or whatsoever. Thanks a lot for.
Thank you, Kai. Appreciate it. Yeah, I love it. Now it's personal. Thank you, Reza.
Yeah, AI democracy. Now it's personal. Okay, and Kai, that's in San Diego, or are you streaming live as well?
You're on mute, Kai.
Okay. I'll be going down. I'll be there in person, but
Kai, you're on mute.
Is it streaming as well?
Yeah, so it's I'm waiting for the link, but it should be streaming. But it's in San Diego, yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. And for JP Morgan, it's San Francisco, the first week of JP Morgan, the big things.
Okay, well, send me the link to that as well. I could be up in San Francisco as well.
Well, thank you all for the time. I went long, as I often do. I want to pass it over to Jim Baker. Jim, you want me to advance your slides for you?
I would love that, if you don't mind.
Excellent.
And that also answers the question, is my audio coming through? My favorite inclusive way of saying that. So hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me some time today. I just wanted to give a little background on some of the work that's been going on the pod storage area. So quick background on that. There's a primary engineering meeting on Wednesdays. There's a pod work group or subgroup meeting on Mondays. So if anyone wants to join, any of those things are there. The basic focus is back-end development, right? So there's the storage of the pod, databases, and then thinking about, and within the engineering group, how to then model training and security all fall together. The near-term objectives we have, like immediate, make some reasonable and reasoned assumptions around the pod storage so work can start. And then the thing I personally volunteered to do, which is how it got me here, was to build out a high-level, quote-unquote, architecture diagram of the components and the subsystems so that we can That can guide some of the development work, but also can be, more importantly, maybe be challenged and refined over the time, right? Start with a strong man, and then we can build and change. So if you could move. So some working assumptions and directional approach. And this is more about like how I'm tackling it. And these are not validated, but again, we all have agency. This is how I'm thinking about it. So avoid wheel reinvention. It's always a good thing. Leverage open source and give something back. Make it secure by default, and then starting with the end in mind. And by that, it means like I want to look forward to where things could be, and then work back into like some practical options there. And then some of the inputs went into this. There's been a lot of great diagrams and content generally shared within the team. Way brighter minds than mine have been sharing great content for a few months now. There's been some great discussions in these meetings, and then what I want to try and bring was my own concerns around resilience, scalability, security, right? And so thinking through that is, can this be provider independent? Right, so we don't rely. We're talking about freeing our information and reclaiming it for ourselves. What kind of dependencies do we have to have? And then other conversations around like, is this going to run, eventually will this run on device? Will it run on the cloud edge or core cloud? And how does that kind of come to be? And how will that evolve? So if you can do the next slide. So one of the things that came out of this was basically this discussion around solid. And then there were some conversations around IPFS, and then maybe some conversations around both. Right, so I started going down a bit of a rabbit hole earlier this week as I was starting to build out some of the diagrams. And so a little background here. So Solid project is actually founded, initiated by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who everyone knows is basically inventor of the basic core Web 2 technologies that Web 1, I guess, but that the world is built on. Its motto is "Your data, your choice," advancing web standards to empower people. And it really is this way of allowing individuals to start storing their personal information and to free it from big tech or data silos. And we've talked about a lot of them in these meetings, right? Netflix knows my movie recommendations. I don't even know my movie recommendations. How do I get that back and take ownership of that? It is a W3C community project at the moment, but one of the things I learned, which is interesting, is it's about to have its own working group, and a charter is being built out now, right? And that's actually good within the basis of W3C, because that gives it now some more structure around the protocol, right? And this is actually a protocol. It's not a tech bit a layer. There are many implementations of it, but it is fundamentally a protocol, a bit like HTTP. Inrupt, which I unfortunately capitalized there, is a company founded by Sir Tim, and where he is the CTO, and it is to help then commercialize the technology for enterprise, which again, these are things I learned. You may have many of you may have known these things, but this was interesting learnings for me as I was digging into it. And so they are obviously sponsoring some of the development of the implementations, for example, and they're out there actually trying to build use cases, consulting on it in enterprise. One of the other ones is IPFS, or Interplanetary File System, which I just think is a branding masterpiece. It is a Web3 peer-to-peer storage mechanism, basically, at its highest level. They leverage it as a decentralized content delivery network, but it is a series of protocols and subsystems that they use for IPFS. They're actually used in other implementations, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And their basic thing is the classic Web3 play of remove centralization control by any third party, right? And so then the theme of these two things is kind of like interwoven to a degree of like, if we're trying to create our own personal AI, free off our data, contain that, then like how do these play together was where I was approaching this. You do the next slide. So some quick discoveries, right? And hopefully some people here don't know these things. So Solid Protocol is literally designed to store and allow conditional access to your personal data. So that's a big thumbs up for me. It has reasonable traction and community, but I feel personally, at least, it can do more, right? When I go online, and I look at activity, there is a solid world monthly thing, sort of like online conference, but it's short, right? But there are definitely people engaging. So this is not a dead project, and it has an active business working with it. It supports structured ontologies and basic storage of data, personalities, and we may need to work on expansion there, but as a way of storing and categorizing data, there's a lot of opportunity there, I feel. It's also got a level of bidirectionality. And I think what was interesting about that, and I don't know how far we can leverage it, but if you're going to store data, and so one of the things I started looking at is like, if you want your personal AI to respond on your behalf, then it needs to know that there is something happening. It needs to receive, a message comes in from someone. It needs to know about it, right? And so, and if the AI engineering piece says that we need to ingest something, categorize it, put it into a vector DB so that it can become part of a corpus of real-time knowledge for an LLM, then how do you know when to update the vector DB? Well, it's got these triggers. So there are mechanisms there when you update data within Solid, then it can actually tell other subsystems that data's been updated so that they can trigger other effects. Now, I don't know how effective it works because I haven't actually played with it, but I think that's an interesting case in terms of saying, like, how do I trigger levels of decentralization and follow-on processing? It can be run locally, or you can purchase pod server access to centralize that data. So you've got a way of paying someone to host the data, and it shares the protocol. So that's good, right? So if we build, as Pi gets built, you can develop it locally if you're a developer environment, or you can actually start then productionizing it. But if you can go to the next one. Next one.
After IPFS?
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. Sorry. I'm not even seeing the slide. That's my eyesight. So IPFS provides effectively a scalable storage layer peer-to-peer, which could get around the dependency on third-party pod storage, right? So there's this thing of like, Solid is a protocol that allows you to free your data and give you a protocol to access it, but the very mechanism of it is dependent on being hosted somewhere, right? And so whether that's on device, so it could be a personal computing device, a laptop or something, or it could be ideally eventually getting to a mobile device, like as the technology and the processing handle that. But then if you go back to, or if you think back to one of my opening things, is like, how do I ensure resilience, right? How do we ensure scalability, right? And so with the resilience, if we're relying on one pod provider, or you're storing locally on your physical device, how do I then make that portable that when I upgrade my iPhone or my Android, the data and everything goes with it? How do I think about backing up the vector DB and the data that went into building the vector DB without having to do a full ingest of everything in my life, for example, right? I'm just using these as cases. So the idea of distributed storage I thought was really interesting. What I learned as I went through this was that it's built out by Protocol Labs. They built things like Filecoin. So it's a decentralized storage where you can pay people, and the Filecoin has a blockchain-based way of actually paying and rewarding for that. Filecoin VM, and that is actually moving across to distributed processing via WebAssembly apps, and they're starting to really think about then how can you actually distribute AI workloads over this distributed network as well. So there's some real interesting then as you start thinking about then could Pi be scalable and could it run in different places and on different machines and technologies. So for example, could you have part of it running on your device, but the back end running in the cloud? So that was how I kind of came about through this. And again, this is really, again, I can't emphasize enough. Many of you may have gone into a lot more detail on this, but these are just my kind of initial takeaways from a quick view.
Jim, there's a thought from Mike.
Oh, Mike, please.
Yeah. Sorry, I had my mute on. I just want to mention, I believe there's one other additional feature of IPFS that Solid doesn't have, but I may not understand Solid well enough. And that's the idea of not just that it's distributed storage, but files are actually parsed out into chunks, and those chunks exist on different points in the network, which provides an additional layer of security and privacy, because it's extremely difficult to reassemble any of your data into actual files that are usable without the set of keys that ultimately allow for that to happen, which I think is different than Solid, which literally is containerizing whole files somewhere.
And that's actually, I think, no, that's perfect, Mike. And I think that's a key point here. And I'm actually now running a Solid server to try and learn more a little bit about how it works and how it's actually handling the discovery of other nodes. But basically, yes, data is chunked and shared out for resilience. Also, though, it means that any data shared onto any given node can't easily be reverse engineered, but we've really got to go look at the encryption layers and how that thing. So I haven't put slides in on this, but where my brain is going is that there is we build a translation layer under a pod server that talks to IPFS. And I haven't got this in this diagram to say, but then ultimately it would allow you then to use Solid, could then talk to IPFS to distribute the data around and ensure that it's encrypted. Thereby you get resilience, but you still end up leveraging the protocol in terms of all the benefits that gives you. You can layer things. Reza.
Jim, when you do get to look at the security, loop me in on that. I'm keenly interested in that area.
Absolutely, yeah, no, I'm working on peeling that back as we go. Anyway, just to wrap the thing, I think one of the things I discovered as I went down this thread was looking at Solid. Solid World is this monthly broadcast, and they have some in-person meetings. If you can go back one. So if you go to the solidproject.org events, the last event, I actually watched the entire video of an hour recording. And then that's where I started getting some little eureka moments, is there are a lot of people working on similar concepts. And so I'm not going to go into the details here, but this diagram here, one of the individuals who presented for quite a long time was looking at effectively the trustworthiness of data and was running these experiments around using Solid as the basis of trust in AI and in building out these things. And so they actually presented this model, which is a very simple diagram. It's just there really to kind of like cap the end of my notes here, right? That they are actually going through and very much talking about exactly this thing. This individual was at Inrupt, the company I mentioned earlier, which Sir Tim founded. And I've actually tried to reach out to him. I have reached out to him, and I encourage them to talk.
Jim, just so you know, me and Colin, we were in the hackathon, so we're already in the Slack group with all the Inrupt employees.
Okay, then perfect. So, that's why I said.
Yeah, so we can make that intro for you. I'll get whoever you need.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll talk to you offline. That'd be great. Because I think that there is a way of joining some work and thought here, right? And that's kind of where I kind of wanted to cap this. And then if you look at the next slide, the final slide, this is the same one. So Northeastern's Institute for Experimental AI are doing a lot of work in here, and here is a model that they actually built out as well with some of the folks from Inrupt around using a solid pod, a chat agent, figuring that out into the prompt and response model, right? And then actually allowing that to communicate to other solid pods. So that's my conclusion, right? Is there is stuff happening. I think we really need as a community to expand that and try and bring as much as we can, or offer to bring people in and share some of that extra knowledge, because as we start to build these things out, there's a lot of stuff that we can prove is being worked on and proven in parallel. It will accelerate. I feel it will accelerate the cause.
That's great. That diagram, the topology of that is very similar to what I have in mind, and I think what we've are coalescing around in terms of the topology of how AI, how personalization couples with generic large language models, and so that's great.
Thank you, Jim. Great research. Join the hackathon coming up next. Get in the pod work groups if you're drawn to this stuff. Fascinating. Thank you, Jim. We've got about 10 minutes left. Sorry for running long and cutting the favorite part of the agenda short here. I would love to get some introductions to new folks that are here. Dave has the right idea. Please put your hand up, especially if you haven't spoken before. We'd really like to hear from you, and I may just call you out. So please put those hands up and make it easy on me. Dave, please lead us off. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Dave Bickerton. I'm acting as an advisor to a number of clients and also a selling organization. My background is 2 times global CIO, so a lot of enterprise experience. And I've also been a general manager in various guises doing big complex systems integration. So I had the pleasure of listening to Matt the other day, and I thought this was an incredible opportunity. And I, just credit to Matt, his presentation went over really well. I felt he got a lot of really good information across that was understandable to, the majority of the audience rather than the normal confusing babble speak that you receive. So kudos to him, and I'm excited to join this community. Hopefully I've got both innovation and a lot of enterprise experience can contribute to some of these groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Lasawani.
Hello, everyone. Lasani Reynolds calling in from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have a background in management consulting, but I'm currently serving as an investment associate at Atento Capital with a focus on future of work, health tech, and fintech startups at the early stage. Also on the platform team, so doing the dirty work of actually helping startups go from 1 to 2 in terms of helping them with both hiring, helping them acquire sales, and helping them reach the metrics that they need to reach the next stage of funding. Definitely excited to be a part of the community and just take it all in. It really is drinking from a water hose, but a good source of water. I was introduced to the community via Toby, who took a recent trip to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we all know that he's a character, but it's been a pleasure working alongside him and looking forward to continuing this journey and learning from you all.
Lasani, I notice you've not signed up yet. Please sign up, and so we can add you to the various lists, Slack and so on.
Yeah, definitely will.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lasani. Welcome. Josh, please.
Yeah, my name's Josh. I'm also in Bend, Oregon, and I'm a senior software engineer and data scientist, and I've been interested in machine learning for a long time, and also fuzzy logic. So I noticed that on one of your slides. I'd be especially interested in that, and also learning and helping out more with vector graph databases and such.
Josh, you wrote your own code copilot that can edit and read code and modify its own code?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty simple. It was more like a weekend project, but like the first time I downloaded my OpenAI keys, I was like, oh, let's see if we can use OpenAI to build OpenAI. And of course, all the source code was out of date. It was 2 years out of date. So it was giving me TensorFlow stuff when I asked about machine learning. This was some time ago. So then what I did is I just looked for on LangChain, which is also a tool I've used a little bit, on like just some starter code on that. And then I just went from there. I was like, oh, it's been a few years since I've used Python. So let's see, how would it recommend if I wanted to make this into more a chat? So I made it more into a chat, command line based. So no web interface, I'm more back-end engineer, right? But it worked, and it was pretty good experience.
Excellent.
Josh, I think you're going to love what me and Ian are working on. That's all I'll say.
Awesome. Welcome, Josh. Great to have you. And there's another new name on the list, and I did give them a forewarning that I was going to call them out. So, Lynn, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lynn Hardy. I'm in Bend, Oregon. I work for a well-known Fortune 500 company in Bend as a software engineer. I'm a Renaissance person, so I'm a creative and a creator. And I'm really curious to know if there's a list somewhere of needs that need to be filled. I'd like to see where I can plug in.
Awesome. We'd love to see that list created, so more folks can feel good about plugging in. But really, thank you for coming out, Lynn, and introducing yourself. Cool. I think that was all the new names I recognized. We've got just a few minutes left. Any final comments, thoughts? Let's hear from the members. Oh, come on.
I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I don't know about y'all.
There it is, Toby.
Mac
So
and
for
cheese.
logistics, we're skipping next Friday's call. I
Yes, thank you. Good reminder. No call next Friday, day after Thanksgiving. I think that's already off the calendar. We'll probably do something like that, if we get towards the other holidays as well. So, we'll keep the calendar updated coming up. But watch out for those cancellations.
Okay, and but we're going to keep the midweek meetings that are currently on the books. Okay.
Yeah, the work groups will go on. Work group invitations are not being sent out to everybody, so they're being sent out to members and advisors. So again, if you signed up and you're not getting these invites, then you probably signed up as an observer. If you want to get involved, let me know. I'll get you bumped out. And then as part of the organizing paperwork, what we are trying to just get a little more specificity on is what those roles mean and how you can participate, more frequently. So stay tuned for some updates on that as well.
Okay.
Wonderful, Riza. It feels like we got a quiet group today of the rest. Do you want to take us out?
Sure. Today was just a fantastic present, and Matt, that was a great digest of your longer talk, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think when I give the call to action at the end of Kwai's summit in San Diego, I'm gonna want to use some of your slides. It occurs to me that language itself, we are now focusing on large language models. Language itself is a compression system. It's a codec. Most of my career has been around building codecs, audio and video codecs. Codec is a compressor and a decompressor, and you typically actually define the specification of the decompressor. So this thing we're doing here at the moment, the video is being captured, it's being encoded, and then it's being decoded your side. So you see hopefully a faithful representation of the person this side of the camera. Language is similar. It's almost a codec for telepathy. Just think about that for a second. I've got a thought in my head. I'm trying to get that thought into your head, and I do it by speech. And that's probably how language developed. And the recipient brain has got an element of creativity and imagination. So their interpretation, their decoding of that language is probably not the thought that was exactly in my head. It's not a transmission of thought directly. We talk about compression ratios. So what is the compression ratio of a video codec or an audio codec? What Matt demonstrated today was a fantastic compression ratio of taking the entire 17 weeks of work that we've done in this organization. And well, he collapsed it down to a 45-minute talk, but then today he collapsed it down to a 7-minute talk. Very well done. And I think you faithfully represented the volume of work and the thoughts, and you basically denoised it as well, and came out with a crisp conclusion. So hats off to you, Matt. Thank you. It was a lot of work you put into it, and I think it's a great achievement, and that's just worth sharing really widely. That's it. So happy Kwaai Day, everybody. Be thankful. I'm taking the next week off from my day job, but I will be around. Reach out to me, and we'll still be moving things along, like the nonprofit paperwork and so on. But hold your family and be thankful for them, and be thankful for friends. And I'm thankful for Kwaai. Keep well.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.